I just want to wrap up the animal dream meaning video. This is part 2. I did part 1 on reptiles, rodents, and insects last week. So that deserved its very own video because it's pretty long. I'm going to try to make this one short as possible, although there's so much to it. So I thought we would talk about pets, like cats and dogs, and domestic animals. They show up a lot too, and then wild animals as well, and their potential meanings. So I've heard it said that whenever you dream of a dog, it represents a demonic spirit or a spirit of lust, some people say. And I'm not going to disagree because, you know, in some people's dream, if they dream about a dog, maybe they are associating it with the spirit of lust or some kind of evil spirit. But it's going to be, that doesn't mean that a dog always means that in a video, because if it's your beloved pet, for example, it's going to have a positive dream meaning. For example, look at this little guy. Since we're talking about animals, this is Max. He is my beloved Maltese, who, by the way, has a very bad haircut. He just got a bad haircut. Oh, so he's going to sit down. He doesn't want to lie in his bed today. Ironically, we're talking about animals, so he's here. But anyway, when he shows up in my dreams, he doesn't mean anything evil. No, he is a brat, and he can represent like spoiled brattiness, possibly, because that is one of his characteristics. But whatever you associate with that animal is going to be what it means. So, for example, he is precious to me, and I love him very much. So in my dreams, he would represent something that I love dearly that is precious to me, right? But if I dream about like a mangy dog, stray dog on the street that's like mean or rabid, obviously that would have a very negative meaning. So keep in mind, guys, that anything can be negative, even a good dream symbol. If it's, for example, dirty or in bad condition, like hungry or starving or mean, you know, it's going to have a negative meaning. That's why context is so important to the dream. You can't just say all dog dreams are bad, right? But dogs or animals in general can represent aspects and character, like your own personality, character that you have, or it can represent other people's in your life, your friends, your family members, whoever, your associates. It can represent their character traits. It can also represent, like I said, ideas. Like he could represent love in my dreams. I have another dog that's very timid and he's scared of everything, so he would represent like fear. He's also much more submissive, so he could represent submissiveness, right? So whatever the quality is of the animal is going to be what they represent. He's seeing somebody drive by and he doesn't like it. I'm going to try to put him in his bed. Okay, sorry about that. I had to put Max in his bed. He's making me very hot. But anyway, guys, so if you haven't noticed, I really dislike it when people say that this always means that. There, in my opinion, is no such thing. I mean, there are universal symbols like snakes, you know, typically represent evil. But again, you know, there could be that one person out there that just loves snakes, and to them it's not or the context of the dream is not an evil thing. Who knows? I'm just saying, it's when you start using always and things like that, it's just almost always wrong. So anyway, back to what do the animals mean? And I know you are probably figuring out by now that my interpretations are very simplistic, right? It's like, what do you associate with that? And, you know, how does it make you feel, whatever. And that's generally the direction I like to go with the dream interpretation. So, but like I said, the animals can represent aspects of yourself, good or evil, aspects of other people. What I have found is the reason that they are represented as an animal or depicted as an animal is because when we think of animals, we think about their nature, right? What their nature is of that animal. For some reason, it's easy for us to think of that when it comes to an animal. But sometimes we don't, it's hard for us to see the nature of a person. So we can see that in the dream sometimes. God will reveal to us people who might show up as like a wolf or, you know, some kind of something else, like a bird or something. And I'll get into that later. Some dreams that I've had that I know represented people's natures in that way. But let's go ahead and start with, I made a list of different things. So we're going to start with dogs and cats. Like you said, like you saw, my dog, and if it's a dog you really love in your dream, it could represent love, something precious to you. If it's like a playful dog, it could represent just playfulness, right? For example, I had recently a dream where there were some dogs in my living room that they weren't evil or anything, but they were kind of like playing and knocking things around and just, you know, causing problems. And so it just represented, like, in my life, there were some things that were kind of not really good. I mean, not necessarily evil, but just weren't productive for me to have, like, some drama that I needed to deal with and get rid of, get control of. You know what I mean? Situations I need to get control of. But again, it wasn't necessarily something dark forces and stuff like that. However, I do remember having a dream many years ago, like it was actually when I was moving into this house, and in my dream I was building a beautiful new house, which I really was doing that literally, but it also had symbolic meaning, I believe. And in this house, it wasn't even furnished or anything, it was just being completed. There were some stray dogs and cats there that were like dirtying up the floors, and I was going to check on it, and I had to let them out. So, you know, in that dream, it is very clear that there were some things in my life that I really needed to get rid of that were somehow damaging or polluting this new thing God was doing in my life, a new blessing, and some old patterns of thinking or behaving or whatever needed to go because they were not good, you know. So dogs, again, they are going to represent whatever you associate. If they're angry, they're going to represent, if they're mean and rabid and attacking you, they're going to represent, you know, aggression or fear or something. If it actually bites you, if you are bitten by a dog, that is going to be like something evil that actually is going to affect you, like something that's actually affecting you, right? Because it bit you. But if it's something like, if it doesn't bite you, then it's just maybe some fear you have or some threat that's there, but it's not going to prevail in your life. You know, you're going to somehow get rid of it or overcome it, right? So there's a big difference as to whether it physically attacks you or not in the dream. So again, dogs could be positive or negative depending on the context of the dream. Cats tend to be more evil, I guess. They're independent. So they're more independent, they're a bit more mischievous, a little rebellious. You know, they don't come when you call them, they do what they want. They have an independent spirit. So that's what that cat is going to symbolize in your dream. Some people say, oh, they represent witchcraft. You know, what does that mean exactly? You know, because if you mean that someone has put a witchcraft spell on you or something, I don't know. I feel like when you interpret things like that, they represent witchcraft, that you should be a little bit more specific, I guess. Does that mean you're under evil powers or spirits, I think so. I mean, it could definitely mean that because, you know, like I said, they're more rebellious. But that doesn't necessarily mean that someone is actively doing witchcraft on you, you know, either. Because, you know, if that's going to go on, then you're probably going to have different dreams that are even more threatening, that will really let you know in a more serious way than just a cat. A cat could be just something, a part of you that's being independent, not being self-willed, not listening to God. You know what I mean? I don't think that's going to be like witchcraft. I think you're going to have a lot of other manifestations in your dreams that would lead you down the road of somebody actually putting a spell on you, as far as actually dreaming of an evil person or a witch, or, you know, maybe if it's a black cat or something, it could be that. Anyway, that's just my opinion. So cats are going to tend to be more independent, self-willed than, say, a dog. But again, they aren't necessarily going to be negative. It depends sort of on how you feel about cats. Like if you hate cats, well, then they're going to be a very negative symbol. But for example, I know somebody who loves cats, big cat lover, and she had a dream where she was crossing a river or something, and in a car, and her cat, she was afraid that her cat had drowned, but the cat was not dead and it came back to life, you know. And again, in this dream, I think the cat represents a part of herself that felt overwhelmed with life and felt like defeated, and life had gotten her down so much, but yet she made it through that time, just overwhelming, stressful time for her. So again, the cat is something that, I don't know, maybe she is self-willed, maybe, definitely she is, but you know what I'm saying, like it could be evil, but it doesn't necessarily have to be, is all I'm saying. Like I disagree with these interpretations where they just say every cat is evil spirit, every dog is evil spirit. I don't think that's accurate. But let's move on to other animals. I think we've talked about that enough. One animal in particular that I think is fascinating is horses. Horses in a dream represent, you know, strength. They represent passion, motivation, can represent like ambition, because that's what you associate with a horse. So I had a dream many years ago where there was a man that was interested in me, right? And in my dream, he came to me riding a horse, and he had all these other horses with him. There was just so many horses. And I didn't really understand it at the time, but I came to understand that that meant passion. So he had very strong feelings for me. And so in the dream, it was represented by all these horses, and they were very beautiful horses, you know. They were like well taken care of. It was like a beautiful thing in the dream. However, if you have a dream of, like, say, wild horses, for example, then that would represent, you know, passions that are out of control, that are dangerous, that, you know, could be destructive. I've had a dream before where there were like wild horses that were basically like, they were running so fast that they ran into my house and they destroyed part of my house. And again, God was showing me that there were some passions in me that I needed to control, because they could get out of control and destroy, you know, my life. And if you think about that, I mean, that could be anything. It's I mean, like, for one, food, for example, your appetite, those things need to be under control, under the control of God. So if you just eat whatever you want and there's no control, then it's going to wreak havoc on your health, right? So at that time of my life, I actually was kind of struggling with that because I was going through depression. I was like having ice cream every night, and I was really just whatever I wanted to eat, I was eating. And it was like I was struggling with that, you know, like sugar addiction. And so I had that dream where God showed me, like, you know, your appetite is out of control. You need to get control of this part of your life. But it could be like, it could be anger in someone's life that's out of control. You know, a lot of people have anger management problems. It could be an addiction of some sort. Anything that's out of control, that would be the wild aspect of it. So anyway, that's the meaning. Oh, and there was another very interesting dream where a lady told me about where she was riding a horse and her horse was like dying. It was sick or something and it was dying. And she was thinking, I just need to, you know, get it to drink from this puddle. And she was trying to get it to drink from a puddle, but it wouldn't drink, and it just laid its head down and was like dying. And, you know, I interpreted that dream to mean that she was feeling very defeated about life and had really lost like the will to live, you know, and she was in need of like refreshment, but she really wasn't finding refreshment for her soul. And after talking to her, you know, when I interpreted that dream, she said she agreed, because she said that she was going through a divorce, and then on top of it, she was having other family issues. I guess her daughter was having some kind of problems, and she just was feeling very defeated at that point in her life. So again, it represents her passion for life. So that's what horses mean, like strength and passion. So if you keep on that line, then like, for example, a mule might represent stubbornness or hard work, working hard. Mules work hard. Donkeys might represent like weakness or humility of some kind, or maybe, I don't think donkeys are very bright, or at least, you know, again, that's kind of what I would associate with a donkey, so that might be what it means to me. A cow would represent like provision, right? Whereas like a baby cow, for example, something that is developing and has the potential to bring in provision for someone's life. And then like a bull, on the other hand, bulls are very strong. Like if you're like bullheaded, stubborn, they can get angry. And so it could represent anger or danger of some kind. Any kind of farm animal, if you think of, you know, people from around the world, sometimes they, you know, own like sheep and goats. Like sheep to me would represent like submissiveness, you know, because they follow the shepherd, and they can represent obviously Christians, right? We are the sheep of God. We're compared to sheep. They're defenseless, so they can be easily harmed or hurt. Whereas like goats are mischievous, they're kind of like disobedient, you know, that would be an association there. So, but let's talk about like wild animals, like lions and tigers and like, I don't know, bears or something like that. So bears are very strong animals, very powerful, and you know, dangerous. So that's what I think that would represent, something that is very powerful, very dangerous. But like, for example, a lion and a tiger in a dream, that's going to be a little different. They are also very powerful and very dangerous. They can be, but like they're very majestic, like big cats. They're just very majestic animals. So for example, they could represent something that is kind of awe-inspiring, that you admire, but at the same time are scared of and can't control. Something that's out of control. It could be like a relationship that you're sort of in awe of and amazed and think is beautiful and wonderful, but at the same time you're having trouble like you're a little bit scared and intimidated, or because of the fact that maybe you can't control it, you're afraid of getting hurt, so you could dream of that, you know. So I had a person reach out to me recently because he had a dream of like a bunch of lions in his living room, and he was surprised, like, why do I have all these lions? But they weren't hurting him. They were friendly and nice. Okay. And he's a young man, just really kind of, I don't know, at that age where friends are really important. And so I interpreted his dream to mean that I thought it was probably representative of influences, associations he was making with people who could potentially turn on him and be dangerous, but that he really admired in some kind of way. And after talking to him, he did agree with that and said that he needed to be careful, like who he befriended. You know, he was kind of like he's in his teenage years. And so, you know, some of those associations may look really great, but yet not be so great. And so that could be a warning dream to him. I want to talk about wolves. Wolves typically are going to have, you know, it's going to be like a snake, where they just have an evil association. I mean, think about the big bad wolf, right? It's a threat. It is something that is not good, and, you know, something powerful, something threatening. And yeah, wolves are not going to be good. Now, the only way they would be good is in the dream, is like if they are, you know, like I said, maybe they're dying out, which would suggest that there's some kind of evil power that's weakening and leaving your life in some kind of way. I recently had a dream about a wolf where the wolf was like growling. It was not close to me. It was a ways away from me, and it was just growling. I saw it growling, and I had to like shoo it away. Okay. So when I woke up, I, you know, was sort of, I was thinking to myself, okay, something obviously is going to be like threatening me. I need to be on the lookout. I was prayerful about it. And before the week even ended, something did happen where someone kind of like attacked me at work. Okay. And just like in the dream, it was not direct, like it wasn't really close to me. It was an indirect, where they said something to someone about me, something that I should have done or didn't do, some kind of accusation. But lo and behold, due to this wonderful technology, I happen to be, you know, listening through the Zoom. So I happened to be right there, in which case I was able to, like, you know, defend myself and explain what happened. And just like in the dream, I shooed it away. It dissipated, the threat did. So, you know, it really revealed to me like the nature of someone. Okay. And that's why I believe that sometimes people can be represented in a dream as an animal, because it's like they're taking on that nature. Part of them has a quality of that nature, of that animal. And so, yeah, I was able to see that. And, you know, that's what happens, I guess, when you're tapping in your dreams. You can see this kind of stuff. But anyway, birds have an element of divinity to them, because they can fly. You know, they're not limited to gravity. You know what I mean? They're above that. And so they do have a aspect of them where they're like rising above, or it's more of a spiritual type meaning to them, or a transcendent meaning, I guess, where you're rising above limitations in some kind of way. And just like, you know, what we associate. So for example, like a dove would mean like purity, love, peace, those kind of things, right? There's other ones. Oh, seagulls. Seagulls, I think, are also very spiritual, divine birds, because the sea, the ocean, can represent God or the power of God. Again, a lot of people say it represents humanity, and it certainly can, but it can also, I believe, represent God, because it's vast and it's powerful and we can't really control it. So anyway, seagulls live by the ocean, you know what I mean? So that's why it can represent something having to do with God. Then there's like eagles, which again would be like majestic, just like the lion and the tiger dreams. It would have a certain it's a powerful bird. It's very majestic. It's awe-inspiring. But like, let's think about like pigeons, not so much. They're kind of like, really, they're like, I don't know, flying rodents or something. They're pretty, but they're dirty. And so they're not really clean. And again, that would be what you would associate with pigeons. I had somebody who asked about like owls. If you dream of an owl, owls come out at night. They're creatures of the night, they're kind of creepy. And so it's going to represent like works of darkness, things that are maybe not of the light, areas in your life or that are not up to par, that are hidden, that are not good. But again, it could represent someone else too. That's for you to decide, to discern if it's about me or if it's someone else. That's something you would want to like ask when you're trying to get the interpretation. Pray about and ask the Lord to reveal that to you, so that you can address it, either way, whether it's with you or someone else or a situation, you would have to address it. So again, guys, God does sometimes show us like the nature of a person as they're depicted through the animal world, okay? And just like I shared that dream about the wolf, right? That was just showing me this person's like couldn't be trusted, you know what I mean? But I've had others, and another one that I was thinking of that I just remembered. So real quick, I met somebody, who a lady who I was really excited about. I thought we had a lot in common. She was a Christian, whatever, and we were, talking about God together, and like, she was just very like, seemed like a very strong Christian, always talking about Jesus and all that. Well, anyway, as I got to know her, there were some things that I was kind of like, I'm not so sure. A little bit sketchiness was going on, I guess. And then I was sort of praying about like, God, is this somebody that I should be friends with? Because, you need to be careful who you associate with. I firmly believe that. If you're going to, you just don't have time to give to a lot of different people, especially as we get older, right? We should be picky. But anyway, as I was kind of praying about that, like whether or not to continue investing in this friendship, I had a dream in which basically I was like in my bedroom, and there was like this pigeon in there, and it was flying around, and it like was landed on the light fixture, and I was all worried that it was gonna like poop on my bed, on my bedding, and it was making a mess, like the feathers were going everywhere, and I was like thinking, oh my God, I need to get it out of here. I had to open a window, and it finally flew out the window and left. And that was the dream, and I knew that it pertained to this friendship that was developing, and it was just God's way of showing me like, this is not really a friendship I want for you. And again, I'm not judging, but it just wasn't an uplifting, edifying type friendship. So just like in the dream, she did, promptly exit my life and found her way out. We realized we really didn't have that much in common and went our separate ways. But that saved me a lot of time, being able to get that. And you might wonder, well, why wouldn't God just, have her in the dream? Well, I think God is very efficient in the way he communicates through pictures and dream symbols. And especially, when you are accustomed to tuning in and really you develop your own language. And so, what he showed me was very easy for me to understand in that dream. And then it was a matter of just praying and making sure, that I felt that I could make that connection as to who it was referring to. But I don't know, I just think it's a very effective way when you're able to associate these qualities with things going on in your life, people, influences, your own things that you're struggling within yourself. They can be depicted through the natural world, which includes the animals and what their qualities are. It's really interesting. So anyway, I hope that's been helpful to help you understand your animal dreams. And of course, the interpretations, it's just limitless as to what it could specifically mean. But in a very general way, I think we've covered it. Thanks for watching.